Remember how I was telling y'all earlier in another video about the Midwest sunsets? Yeah, they hit. Definitely, probably one of my favorite parts, especially because since it's so flat, you know, we're able to see a lot of it, but yeah, that's definitely bussin'. All right, y'all, do a little cold start for the boys with a little sunset in the back. Hello. You already know I'm at one of my favorite spots, IKEA, and I'm gonna have the sunset, or I guess the last part of the sunset in the background. But the first thing I want to talk about things I wish I would have known about the Genesis Coupe. Number one, honestly, right off the bat, would be the insurance. So insurance isn't crazy high, but it does really vary, which just honestly get a quote from different insurance companies or whoever your current insurance company is, because a lot of these are going to be rebuilt or salvaged. So that can affect it. Also, your driving record obviously affects it. And then different policies. So I know for some people, I've heard a lot of complaints that full coverage on a Genesis at a certain age is really expensive. So something to keep in mind, because some people will only drive cars if they're fully covered. Some people don't care. Some people just do liability. So just a big thing, make sure you call around, get different quotes, because some insurance companies will quote you a lot cheaper than others. And also if you say, hey, this company gave me or quoted me this, and then you show them the quote, and then they'll match it or they'll try and work with you. So number one for sure is insurance. All right, y'all, next up for number two, I'm gonna have to give it to the cheaper interiors. Now, I'm only speaking really on the BK2s because I've only owned BK2s. I can't really speak much on the BK1s, but it's probably gonna be pretty similar, if not worse. But a lot of people complain about how cheap the interiors are, and I'm not complaining about how cheap they are. Well, I guess to a degree. I'm saying the rattling and the plastic noises, which technically is because of the cheaper interior, but I didn't realize how many weird and odd noises there would be. A lot of the plastics and a lot of the clips will break, and then you'll hear those rattlings, or a lot of times you'll hear things in the door cards or in the back. I know it's popular in, I think these are called the B pillars, but in the back, those tend to rattle or get loose, or behind the seat belts. There's the part that in the BK2 raises up, and then the seat belt, so you have more of an adjustment. I know that part sometimes can get rattly. So yeah, just actually experiencing it and driving, and then, you know, cruising, or you're driving and you're on the highway or you're on the freeway, and then all you hear are these plastic rattles. Just something to take in consideration if that's something that annoys y'all. Easy fix, turn up the music, or turn the windows down, or get a straight pipe, or get a really loud blow off valve. You know, there's obviously ways that, there are obvious ways that you can get around that, but just a small thing, if that annoys you, then to keep in mind. All right. If we're coming to number three, this one's also going to depend and vary on where you live, but the finding parts and I'm kind of specifically talking also about used parts, because I kind of just buy used parts. I don't really buy online. So if you just buy online and new parts, you're not really going to have this issue. But just there's not a lot of Genesis Coupes, and in the Midwest, because there's not as many people and because they're not as popular, you're just not going to find as much. Now, I said this before, if you're in a more populated area, a bigger city, Chicago, New York, California, the coasts, it's not going to be as much of an issue. I've had to drive a lot and far to find and get certain parts. So I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal until I actually got a Genesis Coupe and wanted to, get things that, a lot of people will just do the simple mods, the suspension, maybe a blow-off valve, maybe an intake, maybe, a catback exhaust. So finding those parts are very slim. They are out there, but anything beyond that, more expensive parts, carbon fiber, custom things, certain diffusers, body kits, those are going to be a lot more difficult. So if you are in an area that just isn't as populated, or even if you are, just know that you're going to have to drive or buy new from websites. All right, Sean, next is the community. It's not a super large community, so it isn't the best, and it's also not the the most supportive. There's a lot. It's kind of, I break it up in 3 different tiers. You have the kids that are racing and abusing and crashing and making the other Genesis Coupe owners look bad. You have the people that drive them stock and don't modify them at all, and this can range from anyone. It could range from the kids to the 20-year-olds to the midlife crisis to the old heads, the unks. So that one is just anyone that just drives them and keeps them stock. And then the third one is anyone like myself who enjoys these, tastefully modifies them, enthusiasts, the ones that are a bit more passionate. They might have a few of them. They might have a lot of knowledge about them. They might be some of the OGs in the game. So there really is that's the smallest percent. That's probably the 5%. And then you have the people who drive them and just appreciate them for what they are, don't really modify them. That's probably, I'd say, a good 60%. And then filling out the rest would be the immature or the kids or the reckless drivers who just kind of beat on them and then complain about them or crash them and then abandon them. So with that being said, y'all, community isn't super strong, isn't super, you see a lot of people who are in it for a while, or they have one and then they really enjoy it, but then they end up selling it, or they end up upgrading to, I see a lot of Genesis Coupe owners go to Supras or BMWs, or just honestly some Infinities too. So just something to think about, because there is a community. It's not the best, it's a bit toxic, and it's kind of just segregated into those 3 groups, in my opinion. All right, so for number 5, it's kind of going along with parts, but this part is different because of the parts that aren't being made. So there really isn't many companies that still make parts for the Genesis Coupes, and then there isn't really companies that are developing or designing new things. So I want to say ARC, VIS, Cybon, some of the carbon fiber parts, they're still making things. Monster Service has some stuff. Moto, there's a wide body, the most recent wide body, Moto or Croto design or something. And then, APR has a few things. So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of new parts aren't being made or being developed. There are some performance parts that you'll see pop up here and there, but besides that, we're not getting a lot of new front bumpers or body kits or wide bodies. So that's just something to think of. And I wish when I got into the community, it was a weird time because things were still getting made, but it was still on the tail end. And then a lot of the OGs, a lot of the original owners were starting to get out of the vehicles and the platform. So yeah, it was kind of a strange transition time. And now it's an even weirder time because it's going on, the first one came out in 2010, so almost 15 years since the first one. That's pretty crazy to think about. So a big thing I wish I would have known before owning a Genesis, specifically a 3.8, is y'all. The headers on a 3.8 is not fun. I want to say it's the worst job I've ever done, and thankfully I've had help both times because I've done headers twice, and it's not impossible, but for someone that has such a lack of knowledge and experience like myself working on cars, it's such a big headache. And not having power tools, not having the right tools, and not having homies or a shop or people to help would definitely have been the downfall, because it's tight, there's not a lot of space, it's awkward positioning, unless you're on a lift, you're going to be underneath the car. So just the whole thing, the whole process. Of course, headers, nobody loves doing headers, but the 3/8 definitely is not fun. And I'm excited because I don't plan on ever doing headers again on a 3/8. And if I ever do, I'll probably just end up paying a shop or a homie, because my patience was tested to the max. All right, y'all, and last but not least, it's going to be the tuning. And this is something that I have such a love-hate relationship with, because tuning these cars really wakes them up and makes them so much more fun to drive, so much more enjoyable. You can get better noises, more power, it feels more, what's the word? Not adaptable. It's more, you're more in tune. Just everything. It just kind of hits all the main points, especially if you do a custom tune. But the reason I wish I would have known more about this is because it's been a pain, y'all. I've been wanting to be on E85 on my 3.8 for going on 2 years, and I am not. So I'm all set up, I'm all ready, but there are no tuners around me, and then the closest tuner just doesn't like to respond, horrible at responding. I'm not gonna say any names, but if y'all want to, do your homework, make sure y'all look it up. There's only really a few, I think 3 or 2 or 3 that really do tuning. Anything besides the main few tuning companies for the Genesis Coupes, I wouldn't trust. I don't really know, but for the main 2 or 3, I know some people have personal preferences. Obviously, everyone's going to have their own ideas and thoughts of who's best, who's a better tuner, who has better things to offer. But one thing I will strongly suggest is that you don't do an off-the-shelf or like a can tune. Do a custom tune, because those are going to be more responsive. Those are going to be a lot better and a lot, I lost my train of thought. They're just better in all ways, in all shapes. A lot of people just want the cracks and pops, the Korean popcorn, but I mean, if you're gonna pay the money, might as well just pay a few more extra $100 so you can have a custom tune, so it's a show and a go, and you're getting power and noises and performance and all of it. All right, so that's gonna do it for the video. The rain recently has kind of cleaned off some of the salt, dirt, and debris off the Genesis, but it is still very filthy. I think I'm about to take this stuff off because it recently has rained, so the paper, I don't even know, it's probably wet right now. Actually, it's not, it's dried, but it's pretty crusty. Don't really want it on there anymore, but it was fun while it lasted. But that's gonna do it for the video, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for watching. This has been a fun video, just because I hope it helps some people out, because these are great cars, in my opinion. I'm very biased. I have 2 of them. I've owned 3 of them. But these are just small things that I wish I would have known before getting into the platform. I knew some of them a bit, but I didn't realize how much and how major it was until I really got into it and dove deep into the platform itself. But like I said, that's it for the video. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you on the next one. Have a great night or good morning or whenever you're watching this. I'm out. Peace.